What's going on, guys? Your boy Fluff here. Today, we're talking about the FireRasha Wizard. It's one of our favorite builds to play in Diablo. It's super fast, super fun, super effective. People always stop by the stream and ask, what build is this? How are you doing that? It's amazing. And I always refer them to Quinn69's guide on the Flash Fire Wizard. But he made that, half a year ago. A lot has changed since then. I haven't really found any great video guides out there, so we're just going to stop referring people to an outdated guide, and we're going to make one for you guys today. So let's get into it. We're going to get into each piece, what's good role-wise, and how it's different from Quinn's initial build, and how it might differ from other builds you see out there, and why we think that this is probably the best version of this particular build. And I feel like maybe this might be construed as I'm slamming on Quinn, and we're not. We love Quinn. He's one of our favorite YouTubers and streamers out there. Keep it up, buddy. This is just an update to an outdated guide. So we're going to get into how this whole thing works. The build's really easy to play, but mechanics of how it all works is actually quite complex. Where do we begin? First and foremost, this is an in-geom speed farm build. The dream with most of these speed farm builds across all classes is that you jump from elite pack to elite pack as fast as possible, killing them as fast as possible, and just flying through the rift as fast as possible. The problem is, in the perfect world, you're not going to run into an elite pack every 15 seconds. The in-geom is going to drop, whether it be in rifts or greater rifts, whatever your difficulty level is, you become a very, very squishy little pleb outside of the in-geom god buff. That's problem one this build addresses. You are a lot more tanky than some of the other builds. You're not as much of a casual rat outside of the god mode in-geom buff. The second problem this addresses is, say you're a solo player like myself and you have stacks of reflection, you run a couple greater rifts and you're like, oh, I need more reflection juice. So you want to go back and you want to run, maybe a couple normal rifts to try to find a pool of reflection. Well, guess what? You have to switch back to gold wrap or whatever, change out some gear, change out your gems, put Boon of the Hoarder back in, and blah, blah, blah. That sucks. I hate doing any of that. I'm sure some point in the future you're going to add some ability to change specs, but as of right now it doesn't exist. So another problem this build addresses is you don't have to switch anything. You go from greater rifts to normal rifts seamlessly. Nothing changes, and that's awesome. The big centerpiece of this build is the Wand of Woe. It basically quadruples your damage of explosive blasts, plus it can roll with 100% explosive damage, which potentially gives you 100% even more damage on top of all that, which is absolutely crazy. This weapon is godly. One of the big things you want on the Wand of Woe is damage roll, intelligence, cooldown reduction, and explosive blast damage. The cube, we already talked about this, my fat head's kind of in the way, is the in-geom. The whole build revolves around. You need this guy, get it in the cube as fast as possible. A lot of people ask me, Fluff, I have a really good in-geom. Can I run that instead of Wand of Woe and put Wand of Woe in the cube? Not really, because Wand of Woe rolls with 100%, can roll with 100% explosive blast damage. So you really need that additional damage. Another thing that stays the same here is a Ring of Royal Grandeur. We use in the cube, again, so that we can use the 4-piece Firebird and the 6-piece FireRasha. The last thing you'll notice that's different than Quinn's build is we run the Aquila Curious, which stays above 90% resource. All damage taken is reduced by 50%. Again, that makes us less of a casual pleb rat once we're outside of that godly in-geom form. And even when we're in it, it makes us even more of a god, which is fantastic. So what he did was he would run Rosetchian Arm Guards in his cube, which would offer, more movement speed. Problem with that, in my opinion, is that movement speed to a certain point with this particular build loses its utility, because most of the time you're just literally spamming teleport. And really, you'll see in some of my gameplay, if you stop by the stream, that when I get like a speed pylon, like the rift doesn't go any faster. I'm still just spamming teleport. Like that millisecond between, or that 0.05 seconds between teleports, where the teleport cooldown is down and you actually have to run just a little bit, is the only time it makes a real difference. And that really doesn't equate to that much more travel speed. So just like Quinn's build, we're going to run the 4-piece Firebirds, 6-piece FireRasha. We do run Ring of Royal Grandeur in the cube, so that means we only have to run 3 Firebirds and 5 FireRasha. So the only pieces that are set in stone here is the belt, one, that can only be FireRasha. the boots. The boots, which can only be Firebirds, and the necklace, which can only be TXIII. You can't get a Firebird necklace. You can't get TXIII boots, blah, blah, blah. You get it. The other ones can be kind of swapped in and out based on what you have or what rolls better. So, Firebirds. The two-piece gives you basically a free death, which is great when you don't want to lose those stacks of reflection that I keep referencing. But what we care about is the four-piece. Dealing fire damage with one of your skills causes the enemy to take 1,000 weapon damage as fire per second, which might not sound like a lot, but it helps you kill elites faster, helps you kill trash just by even looking at them, which is fantastic. It gives you more progression by killing those trash mobs as you're running along from elite pack to elite pack. You know, the trash mobs get dotted. You're not casting anything on them. You're literally just teleporting past them, and they'll still die from the burn of this fire effect. So FireRasha, basically the TLDR of FireRasha is you get really good things for casting all 4 different element types, which is fire, ice, arcane, and lightning. You know, the 4-piece set gives you a lot of toughness. The 6-piece gives you a lot more damage by keeping all 4 of those elements going at all times. So looking at our skills, we cast all 4. We have lightning, we have fire, we have cold, and we have arcane. Let's talk about those skills real quick. So primary skill has to be lightning. You can use shock pulse with piercing orb. You can use shock pulse with living lightning. You can use spectral blade with thrown blades. You can use electrocute with basically any one of these lightning runes. Personally, we like the spectral blades, thrown blades, because it kind of gives the build a bit more of a melee feel, but it's absolutely preference. The arcane piece to our 4 elements is teleport with calamity. It causes a short AoE basically when you teleport, and teleport is obviously a must in this build because with in-geom you can basically non-stop teleport anywhere you want. It's awesome. So why not have it proc our arcane? Our cold here is Frost Nova. Frost Nova freezes enemies. This is the only rune that actually deals damage. So it's the only rune that will set off the elemental exposure and the FireRasha. So this is a must on the rune. And then of course, explosive blast with chain reaction. We talked about all those benefits already. As far as the other skills, one thing we do different here, a lot of people do storm armor with, say, scramble, which increases your movement speed. Your movement speed is good to a certain extent, but it loses its effectiveness. And finally, we use diamond skin with prism. This is pretty much required because A, it makes it so you can spam explosive blast, and B, it keeps our resource really high so that we can keep our Aquila buff going, which is a must for our toughness. And then passes, we use Illusionist. Illusionist is great for getting around when your in-geom buff isn't up. Like you'll be running through trash and maybe they hit you for more than 50% of your max life and actually resets the cooldown of your teleport. You can teleport again. Really, really nice. Or if you're in the middle of a bunch of mobs and your health's going down really fast, you can get the F out of there. Evocation, no brainer. We want a lot of cooldown on this, so 20% from a passive. Oh my god, I wish Barbarian had this. Elemental Exposure, we already went into this. We are basically doing this anyway, so why not get more damage? And then Audacity, we're kind of a melee whiz, so this is perfect. What you want on the gloves is Intelligence, critical hit damage, critical hit chance, and cooldown reduction. You want to stack a lot of cooldown reduction here. 41% to 50% is really all you technically need, but the more you get, the better, because when you're out, when the in-geom drops, like we said, the higher cooldown reduction, the less of a little rat one-shot pleb you're going to be. Shoulders, these aren't great. The dream rolls would be Intelligence, Vitality, Explosive Blast Damage, and cooldown reduction. And of course, on any of these pieces, physical resistance in the secondary would be fantastic. Helmet, we'd want Intelligence, Vitality, crit chance. Again, physical in the secondary if possible. Even crowd control reduction would be great. Chest, ideally, again, like I said, you can swap out a lot of pieces here, but really the dream roll would be to have a FireRasha in the chest, because FireRasha rolls with an extra stat. So say this rolled Intelligence, Vitality, Explosive Blast Damage, and Attack Speed. I could pull that Attack Speed off and roll, Life or Elite Damage Reduction, and have 4 really good stats on it. But that's a pretty intense roll. On the belt, Intelligence, Vitality, Life, Armor would probably be better than this one, but this is all I have, and it's my first Ancient. We're pretty early in the season, guys. We're only Paragon 644, so this is decent gear for where we're at. Pants, we want intelligence, bite, armor, preferably with physical in the secondary, and 2 slots, obviously. Boots, we want intelligence, vitality, armor with movement speed, and phys res if we can. Necklace, this necklace is absolutely terrible, but absolutely doesn't stop me from crushing it with this build. That's how good this build is. Ideally, we'd want fire skill damage, crit damage, and crit chance. Nemesis Bracer is very important to this build. Why? Because again, this build revolves around in-geom. The more elites you kill, the faster you're going to be, the longer you stay in the God mode in-geom buff. And Nemesis Bracers really helps you accomplish that. One thing you notice here, might be different from builds you've seen, is we run the Orb of Infinite Depth in the offhand. What this does is each time an enemy is hit with Explosive Blast, your damage is increased by 5%. And your damage reduction is increased by a static 15% for 6 seconds, and it stacks up to 4 times. So that's going to give you a lot more damage, a lot more toughness, outside and inside of the godly in-geom form. We do run Focus and Restraint. Every variation of this kind of requires a primary lightning skill, and you'll be spamming Explosive Blast, so FNR will like always be up. The dream rolls here would be fantastic. Obviously, it's really early in the season, so I haven't gotten that lucky. You would want critical hit damage, critical hit chance, and cooldown reduction on both rings. Gems, you'll notice that it's also slightly different than the original build. We do run Trapped. That's an obvious pretty much for any build in existence. We do run Bane the Powerful. It gives us a little bit more toughness against elites where we really need it, which is great. Plus, it gives us 20% increased damage. That's awesome. And then we run Wreath of Lightning, and that's kind of our only movement speed bonus. And again, I find that the more movement speed you have doesn't really go that far. In Quinn's build, you saw that he ran Taiguk. They changed Taiguk a couple patches ago. It only works with channeled skills instead of when you spend primary resource, which is why we used to use it in this build, and it was awesome in this build. Now, another question I get a lot is, how do you cast all these things? Like, you have to basically spam 2, 3, and 5 here. Your Explosive Blast, your Cold Nova, and your Diamond Skin. You have to spam these skills. How do you do it without giving yourself carpal tunnel? Well, we just made a guide for that too, because we get it all the time, that question, and you'll see it here above. A guide on how to numlock your skills. So you're basically going to be able to auto-cast these. The only thing you really got to worry about is A, putting up your armor buff, and B, like using your primary and teleporting around. That's really all you got to worry about. But that's really all there is to it, guys. We'll put some clears at the end of this video because they're 2 minutes tops, so we'll put a couple in there. If you want to see this build in live action, come on over to the stream. Ask your questions, whatever. If you guys like this video and you want to see more, give it a like on YouTube. Come on over to Diablo Fans. That link will be in the description. Give it a like there too so more people see it. But that's going to do it for us. So peace out. All right. We had a bunch of pre-recorded riffs, but my non-copyright music for my stream is somehow copywritten on YouTube. So I'm just going to record a video real quick. Blue pack at the beginning of a rift is always great. The easiest thing to kill. Now we have the in-geom proc and we're flying. Which is fine. It's also why we have the Firebird 2-piece. So we can make mistakes. Lots of mistakes. Oh, pretty good density right now. For elites anyway. Oh, I spoke too soon. Oh, see, there's the rift, or the pylon that saves me, basically. Rip. Oh, pylon. Oh, power. Not that it's gonna make much of a difference. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We're out of juice. a chain link pylon. That's why Nems really come in handy. You get these droughts of elites. In-geom drops. Alright, one more should do it. Yeah. Should be fine. Kind of sucks when you go into a Rift Guardian fight without in-geom. But it's really fast, really easy. That's gonna do it for me. I'm going to bed. I've been waiting for this stupid video to upload all night. Peace!